Now that we've seen the absolute essence of OWIN, the app func and the environment dictionary, let's take a step back and look at the other parts involved in the specification, how they fit together, and where the app func fits into the whole thing. The OWIN specification defines a few different parts, or actors as they call it, that are involved in handling the incoming request and returning responses to the clients. So let's just take a look at those one at a time to get an understanding of the terminology used when building OWIN applications, as well as get a basic understanding of the functionality that they're responsible for. Let's start from the outside of our application and work our way in. So the first part is the host. The host is a process of some sort that hosts all of the other parts. It can be anything from a simple console application to a Windows service or even good old IIS if we want to use that. It's responsible for starting everything up. Inside the host, you'll find the server. The server is the part of the system that's responsible for accepting incoming HTTP requests and sending back HTTP responses. In some cases, like with IIS for example, the host and the server are actually the same thing. However, treating them as two separate pieces gives us a bit more flexibility when we're building our solutions. As the server passes the request on to the application using the app func, it sends it through a pipeline of things called middlewares. A piece of middleware is just a piece of code that the request passes on the way to and from the application. They can be used to inspect and modify both the incoming request as well as the outgoing response. If you've ever worked with HTTP modules in IIS, you will see that the idea is very similar. However, they're not event-driven and they're not dependent on IIS. The application part of the system, or the web application as the spec states it, is the part of the application that's responsible for generating the actual response. Technically speaking, there's no difference between the application and the middleware, except for the fact that the application is specifically built to generate a response and send it back to the client, whereas the middleware is built to be passed through on the way to and from the application. And once again, if you use the IIS, the application will be very similar to an HTTP handler. So those would be the parts involved in building an application based on OWIN. However, the pipeline is a very raw way to interact with the request and the response. So in most cases, we abstract it away using what is called a web framework. A web framework in the realm of OWIN is a set of self-contained OWIN middlewares that plug into the OWIN pipeline and expose their own set of APIs for the developer to interact with.